once you have finalized your new package design, the last part of the assignment is going to be to do a realistic three-dimensional render of your packaging. And I'm going to show you how to do it two ways. The first way in this video, we're going to be using Illustrator and Photoshop. And then in a following video, we'll talk about using Adobe Dimensions. Now, Adobe Dimensions has a lot more bells and whistles as far as being able to create a realistic looking render on here. The problem is it is a memory hog. And what happens is if you don't have extra memory on your laptop or your desktop computer, it's going to be a very frustrating experience for you. That being said, I encourage everyone to try it out, but you may find that it starts timing out, or it may even crash your system just because it's using so much computational power on there. So either way, if you want to do it with Illustrator and Photoshop, that's going to be fine. And doing it that way, I'm also going to go over how to deal with lighting and shadows. Or if you can and you're able to use Adobe Dimensions, you can watch the following video or one of the following videos, and I'll go over that as well. So this is the demo that I've been working on, my new Wheaties box here. And we're going to do this in a couple steps. What we're going to do is create kind of a three-dimensional render in Illustrator and import that into Photoshop. Now, Photoshop does have three-dimensional capabilities in it, but to be honest with you, I just find it really kind of unwieldy and a lot more trouble than it's worth. And if I was going to do that, I would just use Dimensions. But this will also be a way, it's a little easier, and you'll be able to get a realistic three-dimensional render on here. So first, what I'm going to do, I've got my layout here of my box in Illustrator. I'm going to create a new Illustrator document here. So File, New. I would do 1117 on here. So where's my tabloid? There we go. One artboard. And this is going to be where we do the three dimensions on here. And to do this, what we're going to be doing is using the Illustrator perspective grid. And this can be a little daunting if you've never used it before. If you come over here in your toolbar, about halfway down here, you'll see the little kind of grid disappearing into the distance. That's the perspective grid. And when you click it on, this is what you're going to get. And we're going to use this to create a shell for your box design. So more often than not, we'll do the front of your box on this blue grid, and we'll do the side of your box on the orange grid here. We're also going to use the green grid at the bottom to create a shape for a shadow, and I'll go over that a little bit more. Now, if you have never used the perspective grid before, and this is the question I always get, people always click on this and launch it accidentally, and then they're like, how do I get rid of it? If you ever turn this on and you need to turn it off again, come up here under View, come down here to Perspective Grid, and you can hit Hide Grid, and then to activate it, you can just click on it again here. Oh, now I guess I have to do it this way. Here we go. Perspective Grid, show the grid. Now with Perspective, the way this works, Perspective is the system we use for creating the illusion of three-dimensional space on a two-dimensional surface. So either your computer monitor or on a drawing surface in here. And so for Perspective, the two things you need are a horizon line, and it's exactly as it sounds. If you're looking out at the ocean where the ocean seems to end and the sky begins, that would be your horizon. So here's our horizon line. You also need vanishing points, and there's different types of perspective. The default here is what we call two-point perspective. And what that means is I have two vanishing points. You can see all these diagonal lines kind of disappear to one line over here on the left. Same over here. Now, if you come up here under Perspective Grid, you do have the ability to do one-point perspective. Here you have a horizon line and you only have one. This is kind of that classic, you're driving through the desert and here's your road going out into the middle of nowhere and it appears to disappear at one point on the horizon. There's also the option here under Perspective Grid to do what we call three-point perspective. That adds a third vanishing point. It could either be below like you see here, or it can be above. You can move that above as well. If you drop it really far below, it's going to give you the perspective like you're up in the sky looking down. So imagine this is like the top of a building. And if you were to bring this all the way up, and I lost my grid there, but it's going to give you the perspective that you're looking up at something. It's kind of more of a heroic view. And it's kind of one of the tricks we always used when I used to be doing movie posters. But let me show you. We're going to go back into 2-point perspective here. All right. Now, here's the thing. Before we even get going, you can make some adjustments on here. The horizon line is not set. You can drop it down lower, or you can go up higher with it. One of the tricks, like I was saying in movie posters, if you ever wanted to do a superhero movie and make things look more heroic, you drop this horizon line, because what that does is now you're looking up at something like you're small on the ground, and it tends to make things look more gigantic and more heroic looking. So you can put this wherever you want. I usually drop it down a little bit down here like that. Now, the other thing you can do is you can adjust the vanishing points here. These are just default on here, and if I zoom out, you can drag these way off your artboard if you want. And one of the things I advise you to do is, you'll notice if you picture the grid as being your box design, if you have those vanishing points set too close together, it's going to make your box look really sharp and severe up here. So I really recommend that you move these vanishing points out. And you can see as I drag this one out, again, if the blue panel is going to be the front of our box, you can see by dragging it out, I'm not as in such a severe angle, and I'm going to be able to see more of your box design. Same thing here. If you picture the orange grid being the side of your box, it's kind of coming up to a really severe point up here, so maybe we drag this out a little bit more as well. And again, this is going to be better to show off your design. At the end of the day, what you want to do is create an angle that's going to be the most attractive for your box design. So I may, let's see, lower this a little bit. And then once you have this grid set up, then we can go back and start building the shell that we're going to use to construct your 3D render.